This is a brand new Nissan Titan, but this isn't just any Titan. This is a Titan Platinum Reserve Diesel, which is the highest trim level of the Nissan Titan with the truck's new diesel engine. It also means the sticker price of this truck is just shy of $65,000. That's a lot of money for a pickup. But obviously, this isn't just any pickup. The Titan lineup goes like this. First, there's the Titan S, which starts around $31,000. Then there's the SV, then the SV Midnight Edition, then the SL, then the SL Midnight Edition, and then you have the Platinum Reserve, which frankly sounds like the kind of airline status where they call you up and you think you're special and you run up to board, and then it turns out 80% of the other schmucks in the boarding area are also Platinum Reserve, and you end up having to sit next to a guy from Tempe who smells like feet. But this Platinum Reserve is extra special because it doesn't just have the usual Nissan V8. It has Nissan's new turbo diesel V8, which makes 310 horsepower and 555 pound-feet of torque. It also has a lot of other stuff, pushing the MSRP to just shy of $65,000, making this one of the most expensive light-duty pickups you can buy. Then again, not many people are buying this or any other Titan trim level. Last year was the redesigned Titan's first full year on sale. It was on sale for all of 2017, and Nissan managed to sell just 53,000 units, which was the Titan's best year in a decade. By comparison, the Chevy Silverado also sold 53,000 units last year, during one 3-week period in December. Nissan just doesn't have the name recognition of Ford and GMC and Chevrolet and Ram. But with the new design and with the new diesel engine and with this price tag, you gotta admit you're curious. So today I've borrowed this Titan Platinum Reserve from RLB Auto Group here in Fort Worth, Texas, which is a really cool dealership. They have a cool inventory that includes everything from the newest models to some really interesting older stuff. They also have some really nice Ford Excursions. You can check them out using the link in the description below. Today I'm going to show you around the most expensive Nissan Titan, and I'm going to show you all of the interesting quirks and features. Then I'm going to get it out on the road and drive it, and then I'm going to give it a DougScore. And for more of my thoughts on the Titan, click the link below to visit autotrader.com/oversteer, where I've also compiled a list of the craziest modified pickups currently listed for sale on AutoTrader. Now I'm going to start up front and under the hood. Now, like I mentioned before, this truck has a diesel engine, which is a pretty big deal. It's very uncommon in light-duty trucks. Right now, only the Ram 1500 also has a diesel engine. Then again, Nissan doesn't consider this a light-duty truck. If you ask Nissan, this isn't a light-duty, it's not quite a heavy-duty. They call it an XD, which is supposedly like this little segment they've created in between light-duty and heavy-duty. In fact, if you look on the original window sticker, it specifically says it's an every-duty truck. To some extent, that's marketing stuff. I say that because if you actually look at the capacities, you'll see the Titan XD diesel can tow up to 12,640 pounds. Pretty good, except the Ford F-150 EcoBoost can tow 12,200 pounds, meaning the Titan doesn't have a significant advantage. Admittedly, the Titan does have significantly better towing capacities than the Chevy Silverado and Ram 1500, and a higher payload capacity than all rivals, 2,900 pounds for the Titan to the F-150's 2,300, but the Titan still doesn't reach the heavy-duty trucks, which can double the Titan's payload number. I suspect the reason Nissan chose to do it this way and make sort of a half heavy-duty truck is that making a true heavy-duty pickup is a serious financial commitment, and the buyers in the heavy-duty truck world are even less likely to accept a newcomer brand like Nissan than buyers of light-duty pickups. Next up, this being a full-size pickup, it is a triumph of excessive branding. All of these trucks are like that. In fact, every time a new full-size pickup comes out, I like to play spot the logos and see where they've stuck all of their brand names and model names. This truck has it in a couple of interesting places. For example, it says Titan up here on the grille, right above the giant Nissan logo that's already there. It also has Titan imprinted in the top of the tailgate in back, which is an unusual spot for the name since no one's ever really going to see it. But hey, it was an empty space, so why not stick a Titan logo there? But the award for the most bizarre piece of exterior badging in this vehicle has to go to the back of the tailgate that has this giant, basically, mirror that runs along the entire rear of the tailgate, and it says Platinum Reserve on it. You can see it really does function as a mirror. You come up behind one of these at a stoplight and you can see if you have any bugs on the front of your car. In fact, Nissan even managed to stick the Titan name on the running board down here, which is about 20 inches from the Titan name on the side of the door down here. Now, speaking of the side of the vehicle, there's also a fender vent, which is of course fake, although it's not completely purposeless. It does give Nissan an opportunity to brag about having a Cummins turbo diesel, so it's there for style and to show off the engine. Next up, one other interesting item on the outside of the Titan is the fuel door. Now, if you take a close look at the fuel door, you'll notice that it cuts into the little trim on the top of the wheel arch, but only by about a half an inch. It just barely cuts in there, but it does change the look of the outside of the car, and they had to make a special wheel arch with this little cut so the fuel door had room to exist. Couldn't they have just moved it over like 8 millimeters so that it didn't cut into the trim and preserve the look, and so that they didn't have to make this extra piece? Next up, moving on to the quirks of the Titan's bed. First off, now you can see the word Titan written out on the top of the tailgate. Maybe they weren't so stupid for putting it there after all. Also interesting inside the bed, first off, it has these little boxes on either side of the bed on the left and right. They have the Titan name written across them because of course they do. But the interesting thing about them is you can walk up to them, unlock them with the key, open them, and then put stuff in it if you want to keep it hidden and sort of out of sight, unlike the rest of the stuff in the bed. It's a nice little lockable storage compartment. I first saw this with the Dodge Ram. The Ram box was sort of a similar thing, came out a few years ago, and now Nissan has carried it over into the Titan, and it's a pretty good idea. It's worth noting that the lid of those little bed boxes also has a couple of little drink holders, even though no one in the world will ever place drinks in them. Anyway, a couple of other interesting things in the bed. One is this little warning label on the side of the bed warning you not to fill up gas cans in the bed. Check out the graphic of the truck they've used. That's not this Titan. It's not even the old Titan. It's like a Nissan pickup from the 90s. In fact, in all honesty, it kind of looks like an old 90s Toyota pickup, but I'm sure Nissan wouldn't have done that, right? Also interesting inside the bed, there are a couple of other tiny little storage areas at the end of the bed boxes close to the tailgate. If you take off the little plastic cover of the one on the driver's side, you can see a few labels that were placed inside this truck on the production line, including one that says that it passed its water test. If you have a Titan and you open that up and your truck doesn't have that label, well, enjoy your leaks. Also interesting in the bed, this truck has cargo lights. Push a little button inside the cabin to the left of the steering wheel, and you can turn on the cargo lights, which are mounted above the rear window. They're sort of LED lights that illuminate the bed in case you're rooting around in here at night, for example, trying to find something, or if you're watching this video at night and you're panicking because you're not sure if your Titan has passed the water test. Next up, moving on to the interior of the Titan, there are quite a few interesting quirks in here. I'm going to start with the floor mats. Now, this is the high-end Platinum Reserve model, like I mentioned, and so it should have nice, luxurious floor mats, but it's also a truck, so shouldn't it have rubber mats in case you have boots on and they're dirty? It's a conundrum. Nissan has solved this conundrum by giving you both. The mat is a rubber floor mat like you'd get in a truck or work vehicle, but then right in the middle, in an area about the size of an iPad, there's a nice little cloth piece that says Platinum Reserve and has these little rivets. So you have a combo luxurious floor mat / rubber work mat. Another hilarious solution, it's very clear that Nissan wanted to make a leather-wrapped gear lever. They feel that that's something a luxury vehicle should have. The problem is this car has a column shifter, and the part that they were actually able to leather wrap is about 2 inches, and there's a tow mode button on it. So they really classed up the shifter for those 2 full inches of leather wrapping and stitching. Nice going, Nissan. And speaking of the column shifter, it has one of the strangest features you will ever see in any shift lever, and that is Well, manual mode. You know how in your car the gear lever's in the middle and you slide it to the side and then you can pull it up or push it down for manual mode? Some cars, of course, have shift paddles for the same purpose. Well, this truck has a manual mode, but there's no paddles and it has a column shifter, so it can't be slid to the side. Instead, manual mode is a little plus-minus button on the shift lever. So you're driving along and you want to downshift for a pass. Instead of going to pull the lever, you move up to the column and you push the minus button, and then that downshifts. You want to downshift to go down a hill, same thing. You push the little button on the lever, and that changes gears. That's probably the most pathetic way I've ever seen a car allows the driver to change gears. Now, one piece of switchgear I find especially interesting in this car is the heated seat controls. They operate as a little dial, and they're kind of odd. Basically, the way it works is, in the neutral position, they're just off. You turn it to the left, it turns on the cooled seat, and then a little light comes on to let you know that it's on. You turn it to the right, you turn on the heated seat, and the light stays on. If you want to turn them off, you put it right back in the middle, and then the light turns off to let you know that it's off. It's actually kind of a cool, ingenious solution to turning on and off an everyday feature. Next up, you'll find another interesting piece of switchgear in this truck when you turn on the windshield wipers. Now, like in a lot of vehicles, it's at the end of the turn signal stalk. You just sort of twist it and it adjusts the speed. The unusual thing about this one is that it illustrates when to adjust it based on the amount of rain. There are 3 raindrops for the high setting, and there's only 1 raindrop for the low setting. The benefit of this, of course, is that you can use that little diagram to decide just how much you should turn on your wipers. Oh yeah, we got a 3 raindrop situation here. Next up, let's discuss cup holders. This is a topic I'll come back to in a minute, but I want to start with these 2 front cup holders in particular, which are ridiculous. Now, take a look down, you'll see they're in sort of their default position. 2 cup holders, pretty simple, but when it comes to these cup holders, you have options. Say you don't like them there, well, you can detach them and move them 1 full inch forward. Now you're happy. Now the cup holders are in a better spot. Or you don't like them there, well, you can detach them and move them another full inch forward. So really, they're highly configurable. You can put them in one of several different positions, all within about 3 inches of each other. Next up, moving on to the controls on the ceiling above the interior rear view mirror, you'll find one interesting item up here, and it isn't a sunroof. Despite this truck's $65,000 price tag, it doesn't have a sunroof. However, there is a little power window control up there, and it is to control the rear window. You pull that little button, and then the rear window slides itself open automatically. Next up, we move on to the infotainment screen, which is quite simply the smallest ever installed in a $65,000 truck. I can't believe Nissan does this. In a world where Volvo has given us like a 14-inch screen and Tesla has a screen the size of a Jumbotron, this thing is 65 grand, and the screen is smaller than my cell phone. This wouldn't be a problem, except that, well, people use these screens for a lot of things now, and in fact, Nissan uses the screen for this great camera system. This truck has a 360-degree camera system that couldn't be cheap for Nissan to make, and they go to all the trouble of stitching the camera system together so that you can see a top-down view, except it's so tiny it reduces a basketball to the size of a pixel. This is a brand new pickup with a brand new design, and this is the screen they're going with in the top-end model. It's ridiculous, and it really needs to be improved. There are a couple of interesting items I noticed inside the screen, one of which is when you go to set the clock. If you choose time zone, you're given a list of a zillion different time zones to choose from, but there are some issues. Take, for example, US Central Time, which is where we are right now. Now, you can select US Central Time, or if you're in Canada, you have the option of selecting your own Canadian Central Time, so you don't have to pick the American one, but the Canadian Central Time one just says Saskatchewan, even though Manitoba is also in Canadian Central Time. People of Winnipeg, boycott this truck. Rise up until they give you time zone recognition that you deserve. One other interesting idea in the infotainment system is in the navigation system settings. If you go into the nav system settings, you're allowed to choose your average travel speed. Basically what this means is you tell the truck you're going on a 500-mile journey, but you tell it that you cruise at 90 miles an hour on the highway, it will change the time that it thinks you're going to arrive drive knowing that you drive faster than the default travel speeds. This is an interesting feature I've never seen in any other infotainment system. Basically, you can tell the truck you plan on speeding, and then the truck will let you know how much faster you'll get to your destination if you do speed. Next up, another interesting navigation system feature. The navigation system can let you know if you're about to approach points of interest. How does it know your points of interest? Well, you can upload them using a USB. If, for example, you want to tell it that your points of interest include grandma's house and that McDonald's you like and the Starbucks with the cool furniture, you can stick them all on USB, upload them somehow, and then the truck will alert you as you approach them, which is kind of a cool little idea. Next up, we move on to the back seat, where you'll find a couple of interesting features. My personal favorite is down on the floor. Now, when you get into the truck in the front, you are greeted with a door sill that says Platinum Reserve. You're greeted with a floor mat that says Platinum Reserve. The seats say Platinum Reserve on them, and the dashboard has a little Platinum Reserve logo. Nissan is really trying to drive home the point that you got the nicest Titan. When you get in the back, the door sill doesn't say anything. The floor mats don't say anything. They haven't put Platinum Reserve on the seats, and there's no Platinum Reserve badge anywhere else. Basically, even though this is a $65,000 Titan, Nissan decided to only spend the money to include all that Platinum Reserve trim stuff up front. If you're getting in the back, well, it's just a generic nice pickup. Now, one other item worth noting in the back seat is the cup holders. If you pull down the center armrest, there are 2 cup holders. There are also 2 more cup holders in the back of the center console, where it is, of course, labeled Titan. Then there are those 2 movable cup holders up front. That brings us to a total of 6. But wait, we're not done yet. Each door has 2 more cup holders in it, adding another 8 total to the vehicle. So this truck has 14 cup holders for a maximum of 5 passengers, which strikes me as maybe a little bit of overkill, but hey, I haven't done the market research. Maybe Nissan knows the people who get in Titans are thirsty. The only other interesting item I found in the rear seats is that they contain a hidden storage compartment. Check this out. You pull a little tab under the seat and you can fold the bottom of the seat up. And when you do, there is a little storage compartment underneath the seats. And there's even a lock there. You can lock it. You can put something under there and no one will ever find it, unless of course they've seen this video. Also interesting is when the bottoms of the seats come up, they have little grocery bag hooks on the bottom of them. So you can put the bottoms up and then you can hook your grocery bags for the drive home, just in case you want to use the rear of your Titan as sort of a cargo compartment that locks if you don't ever plan on carrying around rear passengers. And so those are all the quirks and features of the new $65,000 Nissan Titan Platinum Reserve, which sounds like the kind of credit card rewards program where you sign up and they say they'll send you an attractive offer, and it turns out to be a thumb drive with the Visa logo on it. Anyway, now it's time to get behind the wheel. All right, driving along in the Titan, one of the things that first strikes me is just how massive it is. Pickups are just getting larger and larger, and this isn't like a full heavy-duty truck, but it's still just so big. I mean, this is just the realm of trucks now. With that said, I don't necessarily think it's too large. If you live in, like, you know, the suburbs or in Texas where the roads are big and the distances are big, you know, you kind of understand it. You want something comfortable, you want something full size, you know, drive down the road, you get long distances to drive. It makes sense to get a truck like this. Now, I'm really disappointed in the size of the infotainment screen. This truck, in that sense, feels like it's from about 2009. I'm really surprised that Nissan wasn't able to create something a little bit better than that, given the price point of this truck and given what their intentions clearly are, which is to like create a reasonably good competitive pickup. I will say the interior is generally pretty nice. I don't think it's as nice as the very nicest, the Sierra Denali and, you know, the Ford King Ranch Fords. It doesn't quite have as many upscale touches. With that said, you know, there's a lot of hand stitching that looks very nice. There's a lot of leather everywhere. They included some wood that has a nice finish to it. But there's also a little bit more plastic than I was expecting. And then eventually your eyes just turn back to that screen and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. That's all I got. Obviously, when you sit up here driving this thing, you have sort of a king of the road driving position. You're above everything. The mirrors are massive. They create, you know, there's no blind spots really, so you can see for miles behind you. Steering is obviously vague and light, but that's, in this situation, a benefit. That's what people want. They're driving these things big distances on big roads. They don't want a sports car. They don't need that type of cornering. The truck is pretty comfortable. The ride quality is actually a little bit harsher than I would have expected for a pickup like this, but the truck is reasonably comfortable. There's some body roll in corners. It does feel nice and powerful. I just feel like I have that torque that I can just drop the hammer, and if I wanted to, I could do 0 to 60 in 8 seconds or whatever it does, or I could do 0 to 68 seconds pulling a giant boat if I wanted to do that too. All right, I'm gonna floor it here. It's not quick, but it's faster than it probably should be, given that it's a giant truck. It doesn't quite have the feel that a gas V8 does of acceleration. It doesn't quite feel that quick, but it feels reasonably quick. Obviously, it can get up and get on any highway on-ramp type situation. You're just not gonna win any drag races. But it feels you're sitting up high, you get good visibility. The ride quality is definitely not quite what I was expecting. I was definitely thinking it was gonna be a little bit more comfortable than it is. I mean, it is and drives like a truck. It's a very expensive Nissan. I don't know if I would necessarily think that it's worth $65,000. That's big money, and this truck is deficient in a couple of areas. The infotainment is definitely low. The interior quality is not quite what I'd want, and obviously the brand name is just a little bit of a hard sell compared to Ford and Chevy that pickup truck owners especially are more loyal to. But this truck certainly does deliver an impressive experience, and the diesel engine helps. It is a little bit stronger than a standard light-duty truck. And the upshot is that I think that this ends up being a pretty good truck, just not necessarily a great value. And so that's the Nissan Titan Platinum Reserve. This is the best Nissan truck in history, and it's a long way from what I used to think of when I would think of Nissan trucks. Still, it's barely stealing any sales from the F-Series, the Chevy and GMC pickups, and the Ram, and you gotta wonder how long Nissan is gonna keep selling it. Still, I enjoyed it, and now it's time to give it a DougScore.
Starting with the weekend categories and styling, the Titan is a bit unusual, certainly not beautiful, and it gets a 4 out of 10. Acceleration is decent for a truck this size, but by my metric, which benefits sports cars, it gets a 1 out of 10. Handling is fine for a truck, but not very sharp overall, and it gets a 2 out of 10. Fun factor is basically non-existent behind the wheel. It's a big, burly, lumbering pickup, and it gets a 1 out of 10. Cool factor is okay. The Titan is new, and the top-of-the-line model is sorta cool, and it gets a 3 out of 10, bringing the weekend score to an abysmal 11 out of 50, such as life for a big truck. Next up are the daily categories and features. The Titan is well equipped with a lot of stuff. It just has a small screen, and it earns a 6 out of 10. Comfort is good, though not as good as I was expecting. Still, it earns a 6 out of 10. Quality is only okay. I have no doubt the powertrain is reliable, but the interior isn't as nice as I'd expect given the price tag, and it gets a 6 out of 10. Practicality is high, as it can tow and haul a lot, especially for a light-ish duty truck, and it gets an 8 out of 10. Value, however, is lower. It's a good truck, but I'd be hard-pressed to pay $65,000 for one of these. The Sierra Denali is nicer, and the heavy-duty trucks are more capable, and all have better name recognition than the new Titan. It gets a 4 out of 10, giving it a daily score of 30 out of 50. Add it all up, and the DougScore is 41 out of 100. Here's a comparison to the other pickups I've scored. It comes in just behind the F-250 Platinum in some key areas, and it loses big to the awesome Ford Raptor. No surprise there.